Mark Santiago here, and welcome to the Empowered AF podcast, where each episode we share powerful strategies to help you communicate, act, and lead like an empowered man. Thanks for joining me. Welcome. I've got with me Billy Neal, who is one of our senior enrollment advisors. So he is one of the guys you would talk to if you were interested in joining our Thrive, or what we used to call VIP program. We no longer call it VIP program because we have up-leveled completely in what we offer and what we do. So it's called Thrive now. So Billy, thank you for joining me. And I want to get this thing going. So,
my pleasure, man.
What is the focus of today's topic? What are we going to talk about?
Really, Mark, what I want to kind of pick your brain about and, get clear on is like, what would you say to guys? Like, I talk to a bunch of guys every single week. So I really want you to kind of touch base and like clear up like what you would say to a guy who has XYZ problem. So for example, what would you really say to a guy who's struggling with the whole mindset issue of being able to stop thinking about his wife? I hear that a lot. Or what would you say to the guy who's really conflicted about leaving a toxic relationship because he's afraid of breaking up his family? So I really want to touch base on that, and then what this group is about.
Awesome. So where should we start then? Because there's a lot of like loaded questions there, right?
Yeah,
with guys. You talk to like 6 or 7 guys a day, right? So yes. I mean, like there's a lot in what you're talking about. So where do you want to start?
Yeah, no, I think probably the most common thing that I hear is guys are really, really struggling with, I'm at work and I'm thinking about her constantly, right? Or I'm thinking about my situation constantly. And it's starting to affect not only my home life, but it's starting to affect my business life as well. So if you could just take a little bit of time and really focus on like clearing that up, like what should a guy do in that situation?
Yeah, I mean, usually what's happening is they're tapping into emotional trauma in their brain, and it's led them down this path of what I would call obsession, where they're obsessed with her and what she's doing, what she's thinking, where she's going. And obsession is a very strange dynamic. It's a strange thing in a relationship. This usually happens when a guy is first introduced to her not wanting to be in the marriage anymore, where she's kind of like, I'm done, I'm out, peace. And he just freaks out. The other side, this happens a lot, we see, is when the guy finds out she's cheating, or he suspects she's cheating. He's seen a text message or something like that. So it's very common in those cases. Really what this comes back to is a level of pain and not knowing how to deal with the pain, right? There's no easy answer to this whatsoever. What I would say the easiest answer is to start with himself, and to not be like, the more you focus on a problem, the bigger it becomes. Like that's number one. So the more a guy who's just really focused on the problem with his wife and what is happening and why she's leaving him and all of those things. And I remember being in that place where that's all I could think about. And I was, following her emails, and I was, trying to figure out where she was at, and, trying to see her geography, trying to hack her phone, and like all those things. That was obsession because I couldn't let go of this person. That's codependency, right? And so when you're codependent, the only way to not be codependent anymore is cold turkey. I remember specifically going through this with my ex-wife, and my therapist at the time was like, Mark, like essentially you have to go cold turkey, because if you don't go cold turkey, you will continue to engage at a level that's damaging and painful. And so what I always recommend to guys is that they get dialed in on their own internal work, right? So if they're focused so much on the problem, they'll never see a solution whatsoever. The solution isn't following her. The solution isn't being like overly enamored with what she's doing and what she's up to. That whole like, she's on my mind is because they're not processing their emotions. They're not actually dealing with their emotions. They're not internally, the internal dialogue is a mess. It's a shit show. It's all over the fucking place. And we have to calm that down. So one of the things we talk about in Thrive, as well as our Revive community, is breath work, is using breathing, being able to breathe instead of like freaking out all the time, right? So whenever you're feeling that, you can do breaths. So essentially, we're just slowing everything down, right? So slowing everything down and getting fixated or focused on another thing. So it's diverting your attention. Some guys really just struggle with that because they don't want to do that. They don't want to let go of her. They don't want to let go. They're thinking, if I just keep thinking about her, I can control the situation. And so this comes back to control. And it comes back to their ego essentially getting in the way. What questions do
No,
you have around that? Because I feel like I just like spouted a bunch of stuff.
no, that's really good. I think that what would be good is for you to really, for what's the first step, right? I know there's a video like, and if you guys haven't seen it, check it out in the videos tab, but, and there's a great podcast episode on it. And it's first steps, right? Like first steps to get your power back. Like, what should you do? So I think that would be a good thing for you to touch on is like, guy finds out he's in this situation. What's the first thing that, in your opinion, that he should do?
Yeah, I mean, I always look at it as the guy who just first like has that, he needs a community, number one. So getting in this community is a good step. The second step is taking some sort of action where you're going to be called to action, meaning where, because a lot of guys will come in here in our Facebook group and just kind of like read other men's posts and just kind of like empathize or sympathize with each other. And they go, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only guy going through this. But most men in this group, in our free group, really aren't working on anything. They're just here to bitch and moan and complain. Now, some of you might get offended and leave because of that. Fine, fine. Fuck you then. I don't really care. We provide this as a free resource because we want to cultivate a relationship with men who are interested in doing work on themselves. And that kind of goes into this idea that we're not a divorce support group. We're a men's empowerment group. We just happen to deal with a lot of divorce and separation. We just happen to deal with men when they're in that place, and we're helping them move to a totally different place. So the first thing he's got to do is surround himself with a better environment, right? He's got to put himself in a better environment. The second thing he's got to do is he's got to open himself up to the work so that he can own his own shit. Like, there is no fucking way that you can diffuse the power your wife has over you. There is no way that you can begin the healing journey until you open yourself up to the fact that you have failed somewhere in your relationship. And it doesn't mean that once you figure that failure out that you fix everything, but it's so that you can be healthy. Like, so many guys, the reason they're trying to do this again, we talked about a second ago, is control. They want to control her. They are obsessed with her out of control. And once they don't feel like they can control her, they suddenly, that codependency, that shit rises up. And once you can let go and go, wait a minute, I don't have to control you. I can just be me. I can do me. Your life changes completely. Now, it's not an overnight thing. And most guys, it takes time and a process, but that happens when you step into a new environment. So I recommend, especially those of you that are first trying to get started, is our 30-day challenge. But the guys who have more of like the emotional intelligence and they get that they've got to work on themselves and they are like leaning in and going, I want to be a better man. Like, they're past some of that early stage stuff. Those guys we recommend for Thrive. So if you're super emotional and you're like, you can't even barely get out of bed in the morning, I recommend 30-day challenge. The guys who are like, they've come to grips with things and they're ready to like emotionally connect at a higher level with other men, and go deeper and do work, those guys are Thrive guys.
Yeah. You brought up something that's really, really good. And I know like earlier this week you had a post in the group and it was about like basically like, hey, this is what this group is about, right? It's not to come here and bash women. It's not to come here and bitch and moan, because at the end of the day, I mean, that's so counterproductive for your growth. So if you could kind of touch on what you just said, that this group is about men's empowerment and it's really about, you know, getting your power back. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's what it's not a divorce support group. So if you could kind of briefly touch on that as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of men's empowerment stuff out there. There's Man on Fire, Wake Up Warrior. There's a lot of different groups. What makes us unique is that we specialize kind of in this area around relationships. So what happens is we attract guys who are generally in pain or have had an experience recently that has caused them to be nervous about the future of their relationship. So they engage with us and either become a client or hang out in our group to learn more. But a lot of guys also are in such the thick and heat of it, and they have no advice from anywhere else. They don't know how to get a divorce. They don't know anything about lawyers. They don't know any of these things. So they come in here with specific questions about attorneys and child support and all of these things. There are millions of groups out there for that are specific about giving you advice on what your attorney should be saying and temporary orders and child custody stuff and child support and alimony and all these things. And I understand why that would be a focus for men, right? It's a concern, it's a pain point, it's a thing that you're struggling with. But we are here for empowerment. We are here for you to get your confidence, your power, and your freedom back. Not that we can't tell you, hey, you should probably consider this thing, but we're not really an advice group. We're a coaching group. And coaching is about taking you from where you're at, where you're stuck, to getting you to the next place. And you're not stuck in making a decision about an attorney. You're not stuck in child support. You're not stuck in those things. What you're stuck in is you're in your own fucking way and you need to get out of the way. And this is a time to like leverage your pain and become the best man possible, to get in the most powerful position you possibly can. So that's why we engage men at this level, because we know most men are lazy as fuck and they will never engage with coaching or empowerment until they're in pain. And so we say, hey, you are vulnerable. You are in a lot of pain. It's time to do the fucking work. Because 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago, you're sitting on your ass, you're drinking your beer, eating your chips, being a lazy motherfucker. And now you feel guilty about it. Now you want to change. And that's why she doesn't want to come back to your ass anyways, because you're changing for the wrong fucking reasons. You can't change for her. You have to change for you. And if you come into this group and you're like, oh, give me some nuggets, give me some things I can do to make her come back to me, make her stop this divorce, make this pain go away. We call that dealing with the external pain as opposed to the internal pain. And there is a conflict that is happening. We'll be releasing some podcasts on this. The 30-day challenge guys have heard this training, but essentially it's this idea that you are so distracted by the external things that are happening to you. Her saying, I want a divorce, her cheating, her whatever, the she stuff, that you are not looking here and understanding what is actually coming up for you. Because this is triggering stuff in the back of your brain. This is triggering things that is reminding you of things and situations you've been through. So those guys that are super needy, those guys who are super clingy, those guys who are just like falling apart at work, it's reminding them of something from their childhood. It's reminding them of some trauma that they've experienced, and they are reacting at everything from that place. They're not reacting from a place of strength. So our goal, our desire is to help them harness that energy, help them actually take actions so they can get focused and fucking crush it in all 5 dimensions of their life.
Amen. Yeah. Can you, you just briefly touched on all 5 dimensions of their life, but can you talk about, you said something else that I wanted to, before we move on, that I wanted to touch base on. You talk quickly about a guy that struggles to make decisions, right? Especially when it comes to something like this. What I find is that I have a lot of guys that are stuck in their comfort zone. Like,
Yeah.
I've never had coaching before. I've never done this. I've never done that. And at the end of the day, you're right. It's something that they're uncomfortable with. But
Yeah.
I mean, as you and I know, like, no growth can come from your comfort zone. You can only grow outside of your comfort zone. So what would you say for a guy that's really struggling with that internal conflict of stepping outside of his comfort zone?
I mean, he's prideful. He's prideful and he's selfish. That's all it is. He's just selfish. It has nothing to do with anything other than his fear of being exposed for being an imposter. Because the more you are engaged with other men and being transparent, the more they're going to see your gaps. So you can hide, you can wear this false persona to other people, and you can be a good at fooling everyone, but only you know what's really going on in here. And until you come to grips with that, and expose yourself to other men, where you get emotionally naked with other men, men are they that scares the fuck out of them, because they don't know what to do with those emotions. I mean, as it is, men are grunters, not communicators. And until you become a communicator, you're still grunting, which means your brain can't really process the emotion and feeling. That's why sometimes when things happen, this happens to even me, where if somebody gets angry and I like freeze and I'm like, wait, what is that? What am I feeling? What am I sensing? But I've gotten so good at being aware and being mindful of what is happening, I can pause and reflect and go, oh, this is what I'm feeling. This is what's coming up for me. And now I can engage in the conversation, or I step away. And I've learned techniques that we teach in our Thrive program on how to navigate those waters. So if you're that kind of man where you're so prideful and you're so arrogant, where you're like, oh, I don't need coaching, or I don't need this, or I don't need help, or whatever. I mean, dude, fuck you. You will only grow to the level of your vulnerability. Like, you can never get to the levels you want to go to. And you know what? Honestly, most men just don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
What they'd rather do is blame everyone else for their problems. What they'd rather do is blame Biden or Trump. What they'd rather do is blame social media, or blame their friends, blame other people, because it's so much easier than actually being accountable and taking responsibility. Like, we have a creed in our Thrive program that says, I am responsible. I am responsible for my wins and my losses, for my highs, for my lows. It doesn't matter what it is. I am responsible. It doesn't mean you're at fault, but it means you're responsible. You may not have caused your wife to cheat. You might not have made your wife leave you, but you are still responsible as the husband in that marriage. So a guy who refuses to take responsibility will be a guy who says, I don't know about this coaching thing. I don't really trust other men. But here's the God's honest truth, is that most men have just been broken by their fathers. They either don't know their father, or their father broke them. And so when it comes to another man speaking into his life, I've had guys call me an asshole, tell me to fuck off, call me a narcissist, whatever, just because I'm being very hard in their space, because that's how I live my life. I do it with myself, and I'm not an asshole. I mean, I'm your boss,
Right.
right? I mean, you wouldn't work for me if I was, but I can be intense because I want to see transformation in you. And transformation only comes when you get super uncomfortable, where you go, holy shit, I've got to deal with what he is talking about. And so men are not accustomed to other men speaking into their life, because they didn't have that growing up, or what they did have was abusive. And so they take another man getting passionate or angry or whatever as abuse. And so therefore they lack trust in any authority, and they will shut it down really, really fast. That's what you see. It's a lack of trust in authority.
Gotcha. No, that makes perfect sense, man. Can you talk about you kind of talked about the five dimensions. When guys hop on a call with me, it's obviously the majority of the time it's because their marriage is breaking down,
Yeah.
right? But once we kind of peel back the layers of the onion, what we find is that you've got a negative habit. Like, you don't have personal problems, you don't have business problems, you have or you don't have relationship problems. You have personal problems that are showing up in your relationship and your business. Can you
Totally.
talk about that? How that your negative habits are really, really the issue that are showing up, and how they can affect all areas of your life?
Yeah, perfect example from my own life was that in my marriage, it was easy for me to let my wife walk all over me, because I believed happy life, happy wife. But that's just a symptom of a greater problem. The greater problem for me was a lack of boundaries. That's the next layer. Why did I lack boundaries? Let's go one more deeper, because I lacked value in myself. And until I realized I have value and I have worth, I was going to let this person walk all the fuck over me, because I had no reason to set a boundary. I had no reason to talk in a to not be manipulated. I had no reason to not do that. All my reasons were, I don't value myself, and therefore I don't need boundaries because I don't value myself. and therefore she will walk all over the fuck over me until I get to a point where I go, I must raise my necessity of life from here to here. And when I raise that necessity of life now, and there's a podcast on necessity, if you don't know what I'm talking about, when I raise the necessity of life, then it changes my perspective. And I go, wait a second, I don't have to live like that. So therefore I need boundaries because I value myself. And because I have boundaries, now we can deal with the actual relational issues that are coming up for her. But I'm also dealing with my shit that I'm bringing to the marriage. Because there's not a guy in here. I don't care if you've been cheated on. I don't care if she was abusive to you. I don't care if she never gave you sex. I don't care who the fuck you are. You contributed to the failure of your marriage. There is not one man that is perfect and has not had any issues with his marriage. There's just not one, because we have personal issues. I know guys that avoid their wife. I was talking to this guy recently, and he was interested in joining our Thrive program. I happened to take the call, and he was very successful in life. His wife was very successful in life. He was crushing it professionally. She was crushing it professionally. And he started talking about how they got disconnected. And I think, Billy, I think you'd enjoy the story, because especially when you're talking to guys and really understanding where they're coming from, what he thought the problem was, because I asked him, I said, what do you think the problem is? He's like, well, we grew emotionally disconnected over time. I was like, well, what do you mean? Tell me about that. And he said, essentially, he would end up staying late at work, or he would come home from work and take work with him. Now, most of you go, oh, the easy thing is to don't do that, of course. But I was like, why were you doing that? And the more I heard his story, the more I could see what was happening. And he had no idea what was happening. He just figured, she's mad at me. She doesn't love me anymore because I didn't emotionally connect with her. And I said, why did you think you didn't emotionally connect with her? He's like, I don't know. He's like, I love her. I just got busy with work, and he has a really demanding professional career. And this is just what happened. So as we're talking through this, I could see it clearly. And I said, let me tell you something. I said, you're avoiding her. Why? And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, you've just told me he gave me two instances. One where he would come home, and instead of doing the work, instead of engaging with her, he would have the work, and he would like sit with his kids while they like watch TV, but he was never fully present. Pay attention to you guys who are not fully present. There's something happening here. And so he wasn't fully present. And I'm like, why? I'm just asking myself that. Why is he not fully present? And then he also told me about situations where they stopped going on date nights and they stopped doing these things. And I was like, what is going on? And so I said, you were afraid of her. And he's like, holy shit, you're right. And I was like, why are you afraid of her? And he's like, because she doesn't encourage me. She gets mad at me a lot. Now, most men will not admit that. Now, this guy, again, professional, makes a lot of money, would not ever openly admit that to most people, because we don't want to be vulnerable. And he didn't even know it. But when we started getting into it and we started digging down, he started realizing the problem isn't the emotional disconnect. The problem is I'm not fucking showing up. I'm not present because I'm actually scared of her, which also is coming from a place of I don't know how to communicate and I don't know how to set boundaries, which is the very first thing we do in our Thrive program.
Yeah.
We teach you to articulate what the fuck you are feeling and set boundaries so that you can diffuse the power that your wife has over you.
No, that's really good. And I hear that a lot of guys that are literally, I had a guy yesterday that said, I am the man. I run 3 businesses. I'm the man when it comes to business. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing in my home life.
Just crushing it at life, but crumbling
Yep.
at home.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's a common thread. Like I said, you come on the call, guys come on the call with me, and I'm like, hey, first question, like, hey, why are we on the call? Like, why are we here? And I'll say, oh, my wife left. My wife had an affair. And then as we start to dig into it, and it's like, listen, that's the effect. That's not the root cause of why you're here. The root cause of why you're here is because, like you said, you haven't been able to communicate effectively or in a healthy way with your wife for years, and you've ceded your power over to her by basically essentially being an extra child, right? So in
That's not
regards
even the root.
yeah,
That might be the root to the relational issues, but there's something deeper for that man that's happening.
right.
There is a way that we relate to the world where you give yourself permission to be successful here, but give yourself not permission to be here. And there is something about sabotage. There is something about I don't feel like I deserve a good wedding or a good wife or a good marriage. When that comes out of a man's mouth, we have got a shit ton of work to do. But man, when he can get there, we're open for business because our team is going to go in there and help fix that shit really fast. And when a guy comes out on the other side 12 weeks later after a 90-day program, he's a fucking maniac.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've seen guys, like we've had guys, Fortune 500 COOs and people at big companies come through our program and be an absolute mess where they're literally like crying, hiding in their fucking office from their team, crying to me about some shit that their wife did to them. And I'm like, dude, this is not even it. Like you feel this pain, but there is something deeper and greater that we've got to get to. And when we get there and we expose that lie, because this is what it is, that trauma is built on a lie. You received something in your brain as a child or as an adult, whatever. You received it and you said, oh, this must be true. And you made it true in your life. And then you went about life looking for confirmation bias, a psychological term that says, I am going to confirm the things I believe about myself. If I believe I'm a kick-ass CEO, I'm always going to do things and find things that will confirm that about me. If I believe I am a bad husband, I will do things and find things that say that about myself. And so men are living from that perspective. And so they walk out that perspective in life. And so imagine a guy who goes, oh, I have this perspective of myself in business, but I have this other perspective of me at home. And we go, dude, we can give you the same perspective at home that you have in business. Oh, he's a fucking changed man. He's a completely
Talk
different
about
guy.
that. Talk about the guys that come in to thrive in particular. And I know we get a lot of entrepreneurs and guys like I said, the guy that enrolled the other day who are killing it at business and in all these other areas of their life, like they have like a lot of friends, whatever, but their relationship is just terrible. Talk about what it looks like for those guys when they come in to thrive to 90 days later, here we are, we're completely changed.
Yeah, I mean, there's their perspective almost immediately is like, oh my gosh, I get it. Like I see what I've been doing. And the best ones, the best clients we have are the guys who are willing to admit they failed, no matter what she did, no matter what shit she pulled, no matter how manipulative, no matter if she cheated, doesn't matter. None of that fucking matters. What matters is the man going, holy shit, I have been fucking up. I need to own it and I'm going to own it. And most guys, especially higher level guys, meaning higher level in career or business owners or whatever, they start understanding the stuff we teach them and immediately apply it at work. They immediately apply it to get jobs. There's a guy actually that, Michael, I'll say this because you're on here. He went through our Revive community and he went to his boss and got a raise because he saw the value in himself. I mean, like, we don't teach you to go get a raise. And that's my point, is that some of you are looking for this like silver bullet, and it's not a fucking silver bullet. It is a life transformation. Yeah, Adam said it, total transformation, completely life-changing experience, because you are going to be remade.
Yes.
Like, I don't have to change who you are, but I will heal who you've become.
And I think, and tell me if you would agree with this, like that's the difference between the guys, that in Thrive and 30-day challenge that get the results, right? And the guys that come into the community just in the free group and
Oh yeah.
spin their wheels, right?
Yeah.
Like they're stuck, they're in the free group for 6-7 months at a time and they stay stuck,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, we provide the free group, like I said, as a way to build a relationship with guys who don't know who we are, don't really know my content. They haven't been following my podcast. They haven't seen the success stories. They don't really know who we are. And then there's a lot of guys that come in because they saw an ad and they're like, oh, divorce, oh, separation. Let me join this group. And so they get in here and that's what they talk about. And that's what they think about. And there's people that are just group hoppers. They just go from group to group to group, talking about their problems and their shit, inventing all over the place and throwing up all over people emotionally. And those aren't the ones that we are here for. If that's you, you're welcome to leave. And if you get offended, I don't give a fuck, because I'm not here for you. I'm here for the guys like Adam Service. I'm here for the Michael Sinans. I'm here for the Gary Watsons. I'm here for the fucking guys who want to fucking change. It doesn't cost me anything to have this free group. But I tell you what, we see a lot of men decide after a couple months or a week or a year or whatever, being in this group going, you know what, fuck, it's time for me to take action. It is time for me to fucking take action. If that's you, we posted the link already, right? It's up there at the
Yep.
top. We posted again to, if you are ready, if you're at a place where you're like, man, I need to take action, then I am challenging you right now to fucking take action. I'm challenging you to apply. And I say apply because we don't work with everyone. And we will tell you if you're not a fit for our Thrive program, that you are not ready for it. And we will give you some other direction. We will tell you what you should probably be doing right now. We suggest at least our 30-day challenge if you're not ready for Thrive. But if you are ready for Thrive, it's going to be expensive. It's going to be fucking hard. It's not going to be easy. It is going to be an investment. Why? Because when you have an investment, you are willing to do things you would not normally do. The guys in the free group, shit. Until you fucking level up and go, okay, I am ready to take action, you're going to be spinning your wheels just like you were saying, Billy. But when you level into it, we've had so many guys. I'm just trying to think of some of the stories of guys that were in the group for months and they got in and they're finally like, man, why the fuck did I wait so long?
Yep.
Why the hell did I wait so long? Because you're scared. And that's a good thing, because that means you care. You care about your life, you care about your investment, and that's a good thing. But let me tell you something, man. We promise fucking results. We don't baby you and coddle you, but we fucking keep you accountable. We will make sure that you do the work, and we will make sure that you're a fit for this program. Otherwise, we won't let you in. And if we have any sniff of that in the wind, I will refund you and get you out, because I don't want you in my program if you were going to waste my coach's time.
I can guarantee you that we're more skeptical of you than you are of us as far as like vetting you to see if you are a good fit. So listen, man, I actually have a call I've got to hop on.
Yep.
So any last final thoughts before we wrap up and go for the day?
No, like I said, we have the let's post the app again just so guys can see it in the thing. Look, our Thrive program, 90 days. It's a fucking investment. It's not cheap. If you are so worried about money, then join our 30-day challenge. I mean, it's just plain out. Why? Because we want the best clients in there who have the ability and the resource ability. And look, not everyone in there is rich by any means. We have guys that borrow money from in-laws. We have guys that borrow money from parents who borrow money from other places. We have funding ability, right? If you don't have the cash on hand, we can usually get you funded with some decent credit. So there is a way forward if you choose. That's why to us, it's never a money issue, because it has nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with you being ready to do the work and you trusting yourself. There was a guy that came through, Jason Gleason. He came through a while back, and he actually had a call scheduled with me and ghosted me, did not show up for the call. And that pisses me off more than anything, when a guy says and commits, hey, I'm going to be on this call, and then does not show up for the call. That is one of the worst things you can do as a man, because it shows your fucking character, that you are a weak ass motherfucker, that you don't even have the balls and the ability to just say, hey, this isn't for me right now, or hey, I'm not going to do this right now. Totally fine. We're not going to scald you. We're not going to call you a pussy. We're not going to do anything other than say, okay, that's you, man. We've got 8 other calls today. We're extremely busy. We're extremely booked. So we don't have that where we need to have your call. But Jason had ghosted my call, and along came the 30-day challenge. He hopped in the 30-day challenge and realized, oh my gosh, I need to do this work at a higher level. And from the 30-day challenge, he hopped into Thrive and apologized publicly about it and said, man, I had ghosted Mark. I wasn't ready to do the work. I'm all in. I'm ready to fucking do the work. And he's been a great client. He's had amazing success, and it's been awesome.
No, that's great, man.
Yeah.
Well, look, brother, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you doing this. Hopefully we can do this more often and
I
maybe
think we
take some
should.
Q&A sometime later on down the road from guys. But if that's you, if you're ready to do the work, like I said, there's multiple app links in the comments. click on that, fill it out, and we'll hop on the call and see if we're a good fit to work together.
Yo. All right, guys, we'll close this thing out. Hey, this is Mark Santiago, CEO and founder of Empowered Man. I want to thank you for listening to today's podcast. However, before you go, I want to give you a special invitation. Now, listen, we've got a program that is designed specifically for men who are hurting right now, who are on the verge potentially of divorce, who are facing potential separation or already separated, and they don't know what to do. They don't know where to turn. They're dealing with anxiety. They're dealing with cheating. They're dealing with all kinds of shit. If that's you, I want to challenge you to take the Empowered Man 30-day challenge. That's right, the Empowered Man 30-day challenge. You can go to emchallenge.com right now and sign up for the 30-day challenge. Here's why I think you should do that. If you're hurting, you need to understand why you're hurting. You need to understand what is actually going on. In week 1 of the challenge, we are going to actually rip off that Band-Aid a little bit and coach you through that process. And then we continue to do that process all the way to the point where you start to make decisions that are empowered instead of disempowered. I don't know about you, but I would much, much, much rather make decisions from a place of strength than a place of weakness. So if you're facing decisions, if you're facing this anxiety, what do I do? How do I respond? When my wife is being toxic, I don't know what to do. My wife is cheating on me. I don't know what to do. My wife doesn't love me. I don't know what to do. We are going to help you find those answers within. Now, look, this 30-day challenge is probably unlike any other you've been a part of. Why? Because not only do we have daily assignments happening in the program every single day, but you also get live group coaching calls. I said live group coaching calls with myself and my lead coach. That's right. I am a part of this. It's not just some other people doing it. I am there live with you every single week call that we are on. Third part of that is you're going to have a community of other guys that are going through exactly what you are going through. And the best part of this isn't even a fraction of the price we could charge for it. In fact, at some point we may raise the price, but right now it is at a bargain. So go to emchallenge.com, emchallenge.com to take the Empowered Man 30-day challenge, and I will see you on the inside.